What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be discussing the love bomb. I wanted to bring up this topic because I think a lot of guys may not know this, and this was something that I experienced a couple of times when I first moved here, and I figured today is no better day than other to discuss this topic just because a lot of guys may not know and potentially fall for this. So I want to start off with a little bit of a story time. When I first moved here, within my first couple of months, I met a girl from Monteria, and I did meet her on the app Bumble. Now, I know a lot of people here, dating apps here are bad, stay off dating apps, but I always say that I do think Bumble is much better quality than Tinder, just because Tinder tends to be more well known. And I've never had any issues in the going on 3 years that I've been living here in Medellin, Colombia, or just Colombia in general with women on Bumble. Now, I will say this, there are some bad ones on there, but you do just have to know how to vet and look out for red flags. But ultimately, out of the maybe hundreds of girls that I met on the app in the couple of years that I've been here, never had any issues, never been drugged, robbed, knock on wood. But ultimately I know what to look for to avoid that. So getting into the story, I met this girl on Bumble and we met up. And within, I would say, a week of meeting up, she, immediately was like, I love you. And it's important that you know the difference between te quiero and te amo. If you look up on Google Translate, which I'm sure most of you guys will, if you're not really, good with Spanish, te quiero in a translator in Google Translate is going to translate to I love you. But here in Colombia, or just in general in the Spanish language, te quiero means like it's kind of like a love, but it's more lower. Te amo would be up here. Te quiero is down here, and te quiero is something you can tell your friends, you can tell like family. It doesn't have as strong of a meaning as te amo. So there's a difference. So you might get a girl that you're dating say te quiero, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if it's something like within the first week in this situation and they're saying te amo, to me personally, it's a red flag because generally women just, even though it's Latin America and they are more intense and more romantic, they don't fall in love that quickly. No woman falls in love that quickly unless, there's some exception to the rules, but you're just putting it down on them crazy and you're spoiling them like crazy. Yeah, then it may be possible to, for a girl to fall in love with you that quickly. But in general, if you're just going at a normal pace and doing normal things, women aren't falling in love with you that quickly. But the main point of this video is that a lot of women here do use this as a manipulation tactic. And getting back into my story, so we dated for a little bit. Within the week, she was already saying that she loved me, and I wasn't doing anything crazy with this girl, just typical dinners, taking her out, also as well, you know doing little things like going bowling, but nothing crazy, just normal everyday things you would do when you're dating someone. Now, come to find out, she had a gringo boyfriend before me, some white guy, which, fellas, I do tell you this, and I say this, I don't want to say respectfully, but I'm just telling you this, that if you want to deal with women here in Colombia in general, not just Medellin, Colombia, if the girl has had a foreigner boyfriend before you, it's a red flag for me at this point in my life, and it's someone I don't usually want to deal with because they are going to be constantly comparing you to the previous foreigner. So it is better if you can get a girl who does not, or well, one, doesn't speak in English, but two, has not dealt with any foreigners before you, because as I said, they are going to constantly compare things that foreigner did for them to you. And I mean, I always say, well, why are you not still with them then? If they were so great or whatever it may be. But it is something that you will have to deal with. So my recommendation is just don't deal with women who have had foreigner boyfriends before you. But getting back into the story, so what happened is ultimately after a month went by, or not even a month, I would say maybe 3 weeks went by, this girl was living on her own, and I had some suspicions of that she may have been doing webcam but trying to hide it from me. And what were the signs for me is, one, she had a computer. It was like an Acer computer, nothing, like a MacBook Pro or anything like that, or a really expensive HP or computer of that sort. But she had a computer and it had a webcam on it that wasn't the typical webcam that comes on the camera. Now, like I said, I'm not stupid. As I always say, I was born at night, but not last night. So she told me, no, she doesn't do anything like that. But she also had a very interesting collection of S toys. I'm trying to keep it PG friendly for YouTube, which, I later found out. And she lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, which she did say that the boyfriend was paying for before, but once they broke up, he stopped paying for it. So when I asked her, what does she do to make money? She told me that she sells cows on her farm in Monteria, which, I witnessed her at like an auction basically for cattle, essentially. So I knew that added up. But ultimately, what ended up happening, like I said, I'm trying to kind of summarize the story and make it a little short, is that she, hit me with at the end, towards the time or the end of the month, excuse me, that essentially if she couldn't pay her rent, she would have to leave. She would end up going to stay with a friend in Spain, which I thought was weird because, or not a friend, a cousin, but you don't have the money to pay for rent, but you have the money to pay for a flight to go to Spain. And which a lot of Colombian women do here is another thing. They try to escape Colombia and go to Spain and either live there or work there and try to make euros and then come back to Colombia. So anyways, at this time, it was too short of a period of time for me to be dating this girl to want to pay her rent. In general, I'm not going to pay a girl's rent here. If I really like them that much, I'd rather just have them move in with me and live with me versus me paying my rent. And I'm also paying the rent for them as well. But like I said, this is just me. So I decided not to pay her rent. And ultimately, she ended up later, when I ended up getting in contact with her again, she ended up just going back to Monteria to her farm. But ultimately, like I said, she was, in my opinion, I feel like love bombing me. So, I would either like her more, or maybe this tactic, this finesse tactic worked on her previous gringo boyfriend and he was willing to, get her an apartment and pay for stuff for her. Also, too, I want to say that for you guys, you want to be very vigilant of little things like, for example, she had jewelry that most normal Colombian women wouldn't have here. And what I mean by that is you'll see a lot of women here with either necklaces or what is it called? Rings or something like that. And it looks almost like jade, but it's not jade. It's like a green color. It's usually gold with green. They don't really use, I don't really see too many women with diamonds out here that much, but it's more so this kind of stone, whatever it is. I don't know if it's jade. But she had a necklace like that. And then also she had a purse from a brand called Tous, which Tous here is essentially like their Louis Vuitton, their, Chanel. It's not to the prices of that. A bag at Tous may be like $200 or $300. So yeah, it's nothing in comparison to Louis Vuitton or something like that. But it's still very expensive for Colombia. Just a purse being $200 or $300, which is, in some cases, some people's monthly salary. That's not something you're seeing a bunch of women walk around with. So, obviously I knew it was a gift from the ex-boyfriend, but ultimately, like I said, I feel like this girl was just trying to finesse me either into paying her rent or, kind of rope me in. Now, I will say this, she was one of the better girls that I've dealt with here, as far as very subservient, very attentive as far as my needs and stuff. But ultimately, I just felt it was too quick and too soon to be trying to pay her rent. Now, a lot of you might be saying, well, how much was the rent? And maybe it wasn't that much. She was saying her rent was $700. Now, a lot of women out here will lie about things. I don't know the exact amount. I didn't live in the building. You know, I didn't sign the lease or paperwork, so I don't know if her rent was 700. And later, I had another encounter with this girl, like I said, down the line, where I tried to give her another chance, and I was going to fly her out to Medellin from Monteria to try to, you know, maybe just see if maybe I messed up or something, you know. Because sometimes finding girls like that are very subservient, very attentive, on top of everything as far as your needs. Like, I mean, this girl would, when we would get ready to leave, she would help me put on my shoes. She would tie my shoes, and when we got back home, she would take off my shoes or untie my shoes and take them off. I've never met any girl like that in any country that I've been to. So, you know, it was something that was very different for me. And when I tried to give this girl another chance, she essentially, and this was already after I bought the ticket, she essentially told me that she lived on the opposite side of Monteria and that it would be $75 for her to get an Uber or a taxi to the airport. When I looked up, you know, just in general, a taxi or Uber to the airport in Monteria, no taxi or no Uber was going to cost $75, not anything close to $75. In this case, again, this girl was trying to finesse me for money. These are the type of things that you need to look for here in Colombia. So that's it for this video, guys. I just wanted to make this really quick to, you know, put this kind of PSA or warning out there that a lot of you guys need to be careful with that, because Colombian women will try to use the I love you as a tactic, and you need to know that there is a difference between te quiero and te amo, in which the time that they tell you this. You know, if women are telling you this after, you know, a couple months of dating or something, cool, that's normal. But if it's within, you know, a week, maybe 2-3 weeks or something like that, in my general experience, women aren't falling in love here that quickly, unless, like I said, you are spoiling them like crazy and you're doing all types of things that no one's never done before, and that you are spoiling them as such to where they may feel like they're in love. But, you know, like I said, a lot of times this just tends to be a manipulation tactic here in Colombia. Now, that's it for this video, guys. Really quickly, if you are planning on coming to Colombia or plan on moving to Colombia and want to plan a consultation or a one-on-one with me, please do so, guys. I can help you with everything from visas to just if you're going to be in town, with getting around town and navigating, and you have someone that speaks your language, that understands you, and that can also help you with the Spanish, and just in general with doing all the things and exclusive things here in Medellin, Colombia. So that's it for this video. I appreciate you guys watching, and until the next one, remember to travel, but travel safe.